Hello, sir. We are Group 3. So today we will be discussing our moral selves in the midst of COVID-19. Once again, we are Group G or 7. We are Selga, Senyorin, Villanueva, Zagada, and Zamora. So first up is Marian Selga.
So, for my experience during COVID-19, I joined a non government organization that aimed to create a better future for the youth by prioritizing their health and education. We did fundraisers and donation drives while looking for different beneficiaries for each event. The hardest part about it was that we were operating fully online since this happened when everything was on lockdown due to COVID. The team managers, along with the founder and co founder, were the ones to personally donate the medkits, books, food, and other materials that we gathered from each of our events to the beneficiaries. Even though it was a challenging experience, I'm glad to have had the opportunity to try new things, especially when I'm able to be of help to others. Next.
So next up is me, Bernadette Sagada. So during the pandemic, I really felt lost because I didn't really know what college course I was going to take. I felt sad because I couldn't go out as much, or we were completely in our homes for the past 2 years. I felt confused because um being alone and being in isolation uh was really a challenging and hard time. So I felt anxious, and I also felt angry during the pandemic because because of my negative thoughts. I didn't really know what the future held for me. And because also of what the government did during the pandemic, um, I felt that we were really going to be a lost cause during the pandemic. And then for the number two question, what is something that made you an authentic moral agent during the pandemic? So for me, being a moral agent is someone who has the ability to discern right from wrong and to be held accountable for their actions. So what made me an authentic moral agent was becoming politically aware, or being um realizing um a lot of things that are wrong in the government and also in myself. So what I did to be accountable was to donate money to various situations and problems during the pandemic, like helping out my friends when they were down, and by donating money to people financially having who were having a financial challenges, um also donating to people who had lost their homes during the pandemic because of natural disasters and fires. um I also shared um very political posts um online, and I opened my eyes to the problems in the government and also to family problems. Um, I also became account um, accountable during online classes by being a leader and also owning up to my mistakes whenever I felt angry or had hurt someone's feelings. And then number three, what are your challenges during this pandemic? So I think I had every challenge. um I faced every challenge during the pandemic, whether it be financial, emotional, physical, or mental challenges. Especially since being isolated and being stuck with only your family and just being online really took a toll on my mental health. But because of being isolated and just staying at home, my dad also took a hit, um because he couldn't get any clients during the pandemic. So we really had to rely um on my sister, and the occasional donate payments of my dad's clients during the pandemic. And yeah. And for the number 4 question, for the fourth question, what are your realizations and learning on becoming an authentic moral agent? So for me, it was hard to be an authentic moral agent, especially when you are a Filipino, because we don't people do not like confrontations, and also they don't like being told I they don't like being um told what to do. So being an authentic moral agent during the pandemic was really hard, because but it was also a challenge, because you learn a lot about yourself and also about other people, but it was also fulfilling at the same time. So um it was hard, but it was worth it. Ayan po. Next up is John Prosenurine, but sadly, since he has prior commitments, he wasn't able to um join the meeting, so he'll be sending a separate video instead. Next up is Ron Christian Villanueva.
And for me, it was a very hard and challenging during the pandemic, but because I am the type of guy who does a outdoor activity always, playing sports and hanging out with friends. But after the pandemic came, that made me realize that I really don't have a choice but to change my lifestyle while in the pandemic and just try to make the best out of it. And of course, when the pandemic strikes on its first year, everything is very, very strict. The law, the government, the people. Because of that, that gave me a thinking that even though I really want to go outside and play my sport, I chose to stay inside our house for months or years perhaps, for me to not get the COVID. And I know that will lessen my parents' worries and problem. And that made me a moral agent that time because I chose the right thing to do. Now, there was a lot of challenges that I faced during the pandemic, and the first challenge for me is the online education. I'm not used to online classes because I'm not the type of guy who uses devices like cell phone or laptop that much because like I said earlier, I was a other type of guy and that is why it is a huge challenge for me to know the basic stuff about gadgets for me to join or work in online education. And of course, having a anxiety because of my family. My mom that is a frontliner in this family, she's the one who goes outside to take care of things every day during the pandemic, and to my father that is a OFW alone, and that is why it is hard for me to think that everything is going to be okay because in reality everything is not okay during those days. But I thank God that we survived it, and up until now we are all still surviving. And now I realize that not all of the things that you want is you will get because I have a good plan in my senior year to excel and fight different schools in varsity, but the pandemic hits, and of course it is all cancelled. But there's always a good side because of that. Because of that, I get to spend a lot more time with my family in our home, and I get to talk with them in a lot of things that happens to them, like about their childhood life and everything. And I learn on how to appreciate things that you have now more than before. Next up is
Next up is Cedric Ernex Zamora.
So my experience during the pandemic, at first I was motivated and inspired because I had a lot of time to do the things that I've always wanted to do. And at first I was happy because in reality, as a student, when you hear the word suspended, it would bring joy to you. Yep. But as time goes by, we slowly realize that it's gonna be a long time for us to stay at our homes because of the pandemic. And most of the times I was bored because of the lockdown and the limited things that I can do. too much free time that it was overwhelming, and that every day almost felt the same. The situation that made me an authentic moral agent during the pandemic would be the relationship issue of both of my friends, because during the pandemic, we spend most of our time in social media and chatting with friends through online social platforms. Um, I'm the type of person, what you may call the crying shoulder of the group, where my friends open up to me, and actually two of them have a relationship, and the guy was cheating, and the girlfriend, who is also my friend, wasn't aware of the situation. So after speaking with them individually and finding out both of their sides, um, I like decided for them what's their next step on the relationship, and I advised them about certain topics. And after a couple of weeks, the relationship ended, and I felt like it was my responsibility to take. And though and yes, that was the situation where I must face the responsibilities of my action, and that my actions have consequences. And the challenges for me during the pandemic, mainly there are only two challenges that I have experienced. One is social isolation. Like Mr. Villanueva, I am a social person. I like to go out, and it's like a um, I was shocked about the normal situation of the pandemic. And yeah, it was pretty much boredom all of the time. And the second experience during the pandemic would be disrupted family routines. Because me and my family often travel a lot during our free time, and because of the pandemic, we weren't able to do so. And my realization and learnings on becoming an authentic moral agent would be that I learned that there are no minor problems. It's always something major, especially when it comes to the truth and when it comes to the decisions of judging an act if it's right or wrong. I realized that no matter how small or big you think the problem is, in the end, like I said, there are always consequences to your action, and that in time, you must face responsibilities for your actions.
Ayon. So that is all, sir. We thank you, and we also want to thank you once again, um, and appreciate that that we are one of your last classes before you retire po. So ayun lang po, sir. Thank you and God bless po. Bye.